Welcome to Navigating Hope, your compass to health empowerment. I'm Dr. Jaime Hope, steering you through healthcare, overcoming overwhelm, personal goals, and emergencies. We'll navigate the healthcare maze with actionable insights and real-world advice, unlocking the secrets to a healthier, more vibrant life. Join us to take control of your well-being and make informed decisions for your health and your future. Stay with us as we unravel the mysteries of medicine, wellness, and life's unforeseen challenges, helping you bypass the ER with a dose of knowledge. Stay tuned till the end of the episode with a recap of your actionable insights and a free gift. Let's chart a course to your well-being together. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Navigating Hope podcast. Today I am so excited to bring you Mercedes Fernandez. She is a dedicated geriatric kinesiologist, don't worry, you'll learn what that is, and a founder of the Movement Geriatric Physiotherapy, a practice focused on enhancing the quality of life for older adults through proper mobility and fitness. With a master's degree in kinesiology and a rich pre-medical background in psychology, anatomy, and nutrition, Mercedes brings a holistic approach to senior care. She's a certified senior fitness instructor, authorized CPR and first aid responder to the American Red Cross, and she emphasizes the importance of correct mobility aid usage to prevent unnecessary aches and accidents in older adults. I'm so passionate about this. I'm really excited. Her commitment to elder healthcare is deeply personal, having served as her grandfather's primary caregiver, and I'm sure many listeners can relate to that, and that profoundly shaped her understanding of geriatric needs. Her passion for advocating for older adults began at a young age, playing piano in nursing homes since at just 8 years old. Just what a wonderful all-around person. Today, she continues her mission by raising awareness about the importance of movement and advocating for adequate healthcare for seniors. That all sounds so amazing. Mercedes, welcome, and thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you, Jamie, for the beautiful, probably like one of the most beautiful intros I have heard of myself. So thank you.
I know it's always fun to hear your bio, and it's cool because you did all that, but because it's so common for you, you live in it every day. Sometimes it's hard to step back and be like, wow, I've accomplished some really incredible stuff.
Definitely, yes. I've had a little brief moment right now of like, wow, that's me.
Let's dive into your origin story. I love that even as a kid, you were playing piano. I think what a lot of our seniors or olders, however people want to refer to them, they need time, they need attention. So you were playing piano, you helped care for your grandfather. So share with us your origin story, how you got so excited about this.
Yes, I would love to. So it all started, I was really close to my grandfather. I was bonded to him like the moment I was born, said we. My mother's father. And yes, he essentially helped. The short story is he helped her care for me. My mother was really sick during a pregnancy and afterwards, so couldn't really give me the full care that a newborn needed. So my grandfather really stepped in and helped her and my father. And so we had this emotional connection from a really early start. And then as I progressed throughout life, I started playing music, and he was quite a musician himself. He'd play the piano, the trumpet, the accordion, the flute. Something that was really amazing about him was he was self-taught. And so he learned all these instruments. He was an immigrant from Mexico, and I can't even tell you the year because it was a very long time ago. But I think that something that was so cool for me is I got to see that. I got to hear him play music in our house. And so then he taught me and I would take lessons. And from there, I remember the nursing home experience because the music teacher was like, okay, we're going to do a project. And the project is we're going to select any place you can to play your piece that you've been practicing. And my grandfather wasn't in a nursing home, but we have many in the area around our home at the time. And so I decided, I think that'd be really nice. We see these older adults every day walking by, and I think I would like to gift them that. So there was a recital, and it's just this beautiful affinity that I had from a very early age because of my grandfather. And I think that shaped me to have this empathy and this compassion throughout the rest of my life. And even now, of course, I still carry that, and I get to see the world with a much different lens that I would say most people who haven't been experienced to an older adult community or disability or aging, or even just like a major incident, accident at an early age.
That's lovely. And it's a gift to be able to get to spend time with people with all these life experiences and so much just lived wisdom. I love the kind of the circle of the story that he was there helping you even before you were born and then as he aged, you helped him. And I love the concept of multi-generational living or at least community. So we get to
Mhm.
share those experiences and you got to live that, which is incredible.
Yes, I feel very grateful for that. And I agree with you that I hope that we come into a place in society, and I feel like maybe we are leaning more towards that intergenerational, multi-generational living, but having more co spaces where older adults get to intermingle with children and or teenagers, and they work together through the community or through school, education, and they just get to have this relationship. Because, like I said, if you're not really exposed to grandparents at an early age or an older adult, you're really less likely, or I would say that my experience is people were much more hesitant to talk to an elderly on the street or go a volunteer. I had to do community service in high school. So a lot of people would, go to a child care or animal shelter, and I would be like, "Oh, you're in the nursing home." For me, it was a no-brainer, but a lot of people were really scared of that. So creating this future world where we're not so scared to have a conversation, just go for a walk with someone who is from a totally different generation.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That is so cool. And so you are very well educated in kinesiology. So teach us about what that is and why that matters.
Yes, kinesiology is a very fancy word for the study of human body movement. It is quite a tongue twister, but a lot of people understand it as physical therapy, occupational therapy, really learning about how the human body works, the anatomy, basically all the interconnectedness that is us, the human body itself. And it's so important. I really love this major, this degree, I guess you can say, because it's so broad. I got to learn so many different aspects of it. And then you narrow into physical therapy, occupational therapy. And for me, because my grandfather he was blind in his left eye, he had some vision loss, and it affected his mobility a little bit. He really pushed himself. So for me, again, he was just such a big role model that I was like, wow, he's like super cool. He's gardening, he's driving, and most people, it didn't really hit me until later on that because his left eye was blind, it was discolored. I never really saw the difference. Just he was pop. He just was, right? And so I would always see people in we'd go to the grocery store or the hospital, or maybe not even the hospital because it's a little more normalized there, but definitely a grocery store or somewhere out in the community where people would give again, oh my gosh, so scared. He's got like a blue eye, like blue gray eye, and his other eye is brown. For me, I know I'm going on a tangent here, but it just to see someone persevere through that and then push through his mobility limitations, I knew that I wanted to do something regarding fitness, and kinesiology was the perfect fit because I was able to actually learn about adapted physical activity. And adapted physical activity is all about, okay, how can we make movement possible for people with limited mobility, disabilities, elderly, stroke, traumatic brain injury. And so kinesiology really gets to encapsulate how can I move as an able-bodied person and a non-able-bodied person.
And I love the adaptability component of it because we do have physical real limitations. People have a knee problem or a hip problem or an injury or a prior amputation. And it's not that they should just give up and not bother to move, right? They need to move, but there are ways that they can do it. So tell us why you're young, you're a decade younger than me, but we need to move at our age. But why does movement continue to be important? Does it still matter as people get older?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think it's something to remember. It matters the most because the moment that you stop moving, let's just take for example, we get really sick Or we can use COVID for an example. We had to be locked down. We couldn't really go to the gym, or we were just confined. I think a lot of us got to experience this not only isolation, but an achiness. I know for me, I had to push myself to do a workout at home, which ended up being positive because I was like, this is great. I don't have to go anywhere. But it's important because the moment that you stop moving, the adage in kinesiology is when you don't use it, you lose it. So your muscles do atrophy. And so we know that with long-term sickness, we lose a lot of muscle. We have an injury, the muscle, our arm will get smaller. I broke my arm when I was, I think, 12. And even as a child, you can see the atrophy. And atrophy is just a scientific word for muscle loss. So I think that it's important for everyone, including us, as we age, to maintain some level of mobility. And I always like to tell people it doesn't mean that you have to go to the gym and lift heavy weights and run a marathon and like be the best of the best. It's really even the most minimal amount of movement, climbing the stairs, maybe doing sit to stands in a chair. You're doing sit to stands when you're using the restroom. Things like that we don't think about, but when we get older and we stop doing those motions, it gets a lot harder. So if we can maintain a little bit of movement, like a minimum baseline level, it's going to still pay off when we're a lot older.
Yeah, I think that's really key because, and like what you said, this doesn't mean that people have to do a marathon. Even people in their 30s and 40s and 50s, we want to stay active. We want to keep moving. And sometimes it seems intimidating. Like you have to go to a gym, have this huge weight loss program, join this really extensive thing, run a marathon. And that's not what movement and health are always about, right?
Exactly. I think it can be as simple, not I think, it is as simple as gardening, walking. If you have a pet, walking the pet, a dog or cat. I have two dogs, and I always say, I don't know who's walking who. I'm walking the dog,
Oh,
and
I
the
have
dog
a
is
big
walking
dog. I
me.
can tell you who's walking who. I am
Yeah.
not winning.
But it's it becomes this natural routine, and we don't think about it, but that's our movement. And for an older adult who maybe has a rollator or a mobility device, how can you support your activity level just going around the house? An example is my grandfather, all the way to the day before he passed away, he loved his walking routine. And again, it was just this inspiration to see 3 times a day, every day after every meal. I have to walk. He would go up and down. We lived on a hill, so he'd go up and down the hill, and then he would take a nap.
You know what? At that age, they've earned their naps.
Of course, I love naps. I wish I could take them more often, but it's this beauty that how important is it to just once you create a routine, whether again that's gardening, watering your plants, going around the backyard or the front yard, like that's enough movement to get someone's heart pumping, to use their muscles, to tie the hose back in. There's a lot of movement in that can just be as simple as, like you said, you don't need to run a marathon, or you don't have to. The gym is like, me being in my 30s now, I'm like, I actually really don't want to go to the gym because it's so intimidating. Like you said, it's like everyone there is really young, or there's a big gym culture now, which we don't really need to get into. But for to make the point, think about just the most simplest activities that can really go far for you.
Yeah. So for our elder adults, we can just encourage. I like how you said he had the routine because that it just, once it becomes part of your day, almost part of your identity, you are so much more likely to stick with it. So how do you encourage that habit formation particularly with older adults who really need to not be sedentary because that comes with so many risks?
Yes. This is a tricky one because it's so easy to drop off really early on. And I would say, for me, what I've seen in my line of work is really having that accountability partner. So if that's a spouse, a child, a caregiver, a pet, friend, grandchildren, or even or a personal trainer, a geriatric personal trainer, someone who's going to motivate you and actually keep you accountable. Because oftentimes, like what I see with my clients is that we'll get to maybe 2, 3 sessions and they'll get really comfortable. And then it'll be easier for them to be like, I just feel really sleepy and today I don't really think I'm gonna make it. And it's okay, maybe not today, but how about tomorrow? So we have
Yeah,
to
I
just
like the
kind of teach
expression never
them.
skip it twice, because then skipping becomes the habit, not the thing. If you have to skip it
Exactly.
once, maybe, but never skip twice.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So I think having, I would say to summarize that point, just having an accountability partner. And if the listener is thinking, I don't have an accountability partner, or maybe I'm really lonely and I don't have anyone around me, or we can have so many thoughts around loneliness and isolation, especially with older age. I think that try your best not to let those thoughts happen because you are not alone. There are oftentimes free resources depending on the county that you're in or the country or the state. I know Medicare, certain health plans have resources built into their insurance plans. So it's hard to make that first step, but you're not alone and you can get that accountability support for your own health.
And it does make a huge difference. I teach a caregiver finance course on how to unlock a secure future. And because it is more than just, okay, here's your basic insurance benefits for hospitalization, but there are so many potentially covered benefits. Physical therapy, whether in a building, if you want that experience of getting out, or in home. There's in-home caregivers, there's in-home companions. For my grandma, we had her, like we were joking, and don't worry, my grandma thought this was funny because we had a dog walker at the time. And then, but she would spend time with my grandma, so she became the grandma walker, which my grandma thought was very hilarious. But what she needed wasn't medical care at that. She needed someone to sit down and have some coffee with her and have a conversation. And so I love that you pointed out there are resources. That's what I teach people, how to actually find them specific for your community. And because I think that makes a difference.
Yes, and I love that you do that, truly. And to your grandmother, kudos
She
to
had
her.
such a good sense of humor.
It's
Hilarious
amazing.
woman.
Yes, and it's ironic because I sit here now 2 years later. I had worked on a startup called Walk with Pop, and that was exactly the model. The model came to me because of my grandfather and because I had seen a caregiver and an older adult who really needed, you could just tell that he really needed companionship, and they would just walk out in the neighborhood, but the caregiver was completely gone, was totally disassociated, was on his phone, and this elderly man was just looking at him, hey, I'm right here, are you gonna walk with me? And for me, I thought, okay, I know it was a terrible pitch, but it's like your grandmother said, it's dog walking. It's like dog walk. I mean, if we can walk dogs, we hire people to walk our pets. Why do we not have a companionship service where someone is there to hang out and walk with our older adults?
Being a caregiver, and you've done it, sometimes it can
Mm-hmm.
feel overwhelming. You're driving to appointments, you're managing meds and doing all this other stuff. There's no reason that entire everything has to be on your shoulders. And that's
Mm-hmm.
why utilizing, respite care and other systems and processes available can make a world of difference. So for the caregivers out there, you
Mm-hmm.
can help with this, but you also don't have to do it alone.
Exactly, exactly. That's exactly what I totally advocate for as well, is that yeah, it's such a daunting task sometimes. You're overwhelmed, you're burnt out. I know that I was when I was towards the end when my grandfather really needed a lot more care.
Mm-hmm.
And it's okay. I think a lot of the times caregivers do feel like guilty. I'm not there. They're going to think I don't care about them anymore. I need to be there 24/7. And at the end of the day, we have to take those moments to take care of ourselves so we can take care of the ones we are taking care of. It's like
Yeah.
this cyclical cycle of care and care for self.
I'm
Um,
a huge component of that. You can't pour into other people from an empty bucket. So that
yes.
self-care, it's a caregiver finance course, and there's a whole section on caregiver self-care that has nothing to do with money. But it's because if
Awesome.
you're so burnt out and exhausted, you it makes the other stuff not matter as much. So I love that. And I love what you talk about in terms of appropriate mobility aids, right? So a lot of people who are caregivers have experienced the fall and the aches and the things. So if we can get ahead of that by because we want the movement, right? But we want it safe. So let's talk about safe and how do we know what's safe?
Yes, this is my bread and butter. This is what I love to talk about with everyone is especially I specialize mostly in walkers and canes. And so we see that often in the community, four-wheeled walker. So we'll use the walker as an example. What is safe, right? First of all, I think the biggest thing that most individuals don't know, and it's no one's fault, it's really just probably maybe the manufacturing fault. I don't know. I'm not here to blame anyone. But in my research, I did my entire master's thesis on this as well, is that the mobility aid, no one teaches the user how to use it. Oftentimes, unless they go to physical therapy, they will get addressed, oh, your walker's too low. Oh, really? I had no idea. Oftentimes, they go to CVS. Oh, I need this cane. It's cute. I grab the cane. It's not set up. It's in a manufacturer setup, so the cane's too low. So then what happens over time? The person's reaching down and they start to hunch over to the side and then they stay in that position because their muscles are all locked. So I think that first and foremost is really assessing your walker or your cane, your mobility device. What are you using? Are you using crutches? I don't think they're really common as they are in Europe, like individual crutches, but canes and walkers are. And what I see the most, even Amazon, if you purchase one on Amazon, sometimes it comes with instructions, oftentimes it doesn't. So assessing if you have a walker, the number one, for those who are listening, the number one trademark that it's too low or it's inappropriately set up is if you're reaching forward. Like you're reaching down and you're hunching down to grab the handles. And then the walker's you're pushing the walker and your feet are dragging behind it. That walker should be like really close to your hips, not super close. You should be at about 90 degrees with the elbows and definitely not following the walker. So you should be pushing the walker, it's not pulling you.
And I love that those are such practical, straightforward instructions. And it's true, this is a piece of medical equipment, and you don't want to pick it just because you're like, oh, I like the purple sparkly one. You need, I mean, you can get a purple sparkly one, but in the right size, first of all. First, just so it's the right mobility aid, then the right size, then the right movement. Is that kind of how do you, because you help people with this, right? You have your program. Tell us about how you would help somebody if they're coming to you.
Yes, exactly. This is what I love to do, and this is what I hope to help a lot of people with is how, like you said, the first step is really what is your mobility need? Do you have any limitations? Have you had a recent fall? What's your activity level like? And most importantly, what's your balance like? So really assessing all these different variations of health, mobility health, and stability, because that's where the falls come in, right? You see them often in the ER. You hear it often from the caregivers, like, oh, she fell again, and then she tripped. Or, oh, I was walking with my rollator and I forgot to put the brakes on and I had a moment of hesitation and boom, I fell. Finding out maybe a rollator, a four-wheeled walker isn't right for you, right? So if you have maybe a little bit of a balance issue, maybe considering a more sturdy walker first, and then you work your way. Like we would work with me, we can help someone work that strength up and the balance and the coordination to maybe get to that four-wheeled walker so you can be more in the community. I think oftentimes with more stable walkers, like a static walker, so no wheels, those kind of have this image of a hospital walker, and so they're like, I'm ashamed to be using that in the street, and it has tennis balls and the tennis balls can get stuck on the concrete. So there's all these variations, stigma and such, but it doesn't mean that you should go to the one that's the cool and the popular one, because that one's actually going to hurt you the most.
Yeah, and I would love to, let's talk about the stigma, because that's the real thing. So as an ER doc, I'm seeing a patient in the ER after they fell and they're there and their family members are like, Mom, why didn't you just use your walker? And I hear the same variation over and over for the last 2 decades. Either I was just walking a few steps, so I didn't think I needed it, or I don't want that rotten thing. That's for old people. So how do you chat with caregivers and chat with patients so they can be accepting of this device? Because I think as a young person, if I see somebody with a walker, I don't, we're not judging them like, oh, they're a terrible person. You're like, oh, they have a need. I feel like they feel like there's more of a stigma than society actually has, possibly.
Definitely. I think so. I can't put myself in that position yet because I'm not there, but I've seen with my grandfather, he never got to a walker because of that resistance, and it took us a while with the cane, but then he ended up falling in love with his cane. And now my father's kind of getting into this place where he's getting injured more, and he's, no way I'm going to use a walker. That means I'm like, I'm done. And so I also integrated this into my master work is that oftentimes what the research shows is that it is mostly society and it is this view that they have this what dawns on them of, oh my gosh, I'm no longer independent. I'm no longer a part of society. I can't function in the community like I used to. I'm looked down upon like I'm disabled. People are helping me that I don't really want to be treated like someone who really needs help. So there's all these emotional aspects. And what I have done with in my work with my clients is, okay, I understand this might be hard, but let's look at the case of when you're not using it. Do you really think that not using it is going to get you back out of the community? So keep like looking into these pros and cons. And then I also like to promote like making it fun, like making it fashionable. Like how can you integrate it now into your identity? Because you're taking this on this, it's a new extension of the body. You have to learn how to walk with it. You have to learn how to be with it all the time if you're in that place. And I do like to encourage people that just because you're using a mobility device now doesn't mean that you have to use it forever. It might be you might need it temporarily after a fall. Let's rehabilitate you, get your strength back so you don't need to rely on a walker. So it's not like a death sentence.
Yeah, like those of us who had crutches from sports injuries when we were in
Mm-hmm.
school, because we don't have that fear, like, oh, I'm stuck with this forever. What I think is really incredible about your training is so you have the kinesiology, the physical movement, but also that psychology, because it's very easy to look at an elder person and say, you obviously need this walker. Here, just take it. What just take it. What's the problem? And you understand that they have the resistance, it's the loss of independence, the because people do infantilize older people, right? They start calling them sweetie and
Mm-hmm.
honey, and that's annoying to many of them. And so it's there's such a mindset in addition to that. And I love how you bring all of those components in when you're helping people. How does one like how does people interact with you when you're helping with them? Tell us about how somebody could work with you.
Yes, I think that again, my specialty here is really helping an older adult. There's so many variations. So there's someone who is still quite fit or agile and just wants the child, hey, my dad's getting a little slow. Is there any way that you can work out with him? Great, I can absolutely do that. And then so I create this companionship, this fun, okay, we're going to exercise virtually. You get to do it in the living room. And we get to have fun with the camera. Can you see me here? Can I reach this? Okay, let's go get some can of soup. So I make it fun in that regard. And then there's the opposite side of, hey, my mom just fell really hard. She's really scared of walking again. She doesn't have stability, so I need to work out with her. Can we have training together? Then it becomes like a group therapy class. Like we have the caregiver or the child whoever's taking care of mom and me. And so then we get to have this again. I always like to make my trainings fun because I do think that fitness should be fun. I believe in let's have a good time. It doesn't have to be like ugh, grunting and if I'm not sweating, I'm not doing it right. It should not be that way. I think again, incorporating with such a really special population and just so many different walks of life. One of my favorite things is working in the geriatric community is you get to really learn about parts of life, parts of the world that I will not ever know what it was like. What was it like in the war? What was it like, immigrating? So really getting to incorporate all of those aspects plus movement and plus the positivity of what can come.
There's so many things I love about that. I love the positivity because even for younger, more able folks, workout doesn't have to be a slog and a grind and a torture. We all need to be moving. Find something you enjoy. And I love, I'm all for videos and stuff like that, but particularly for somebody who needs an assessment and they need specific things, they might be watching a video that is teaching them one thing, but their personal situation would actually benefit better from doing this thing. And so actually getting to see their movement, see them as an individual makes a difference, a huge difference.
Yes, definitely. And something that I also offer with all my trainings is that because it's virtual, we have the ability to record it. So it's not like your normal training session in person, is that here we can record it and they can go back and watch it. So maybe we can't meet next week, or they want to see what we did and what they look like. So they can actually see that there's like a positive feedback loop here to say, okay, I reviewed, I went over it, I did it over the weekend again, I'm getting better, or wow, I didn't know that I was actually leaning forward so much. So how can we correct that?
Realizing video is great because it's like when if you're doing a plank and you're like, oh yeah, I'm perfectly flat. That was with my 10-year-old son. I'm perfectly flat while I'm doing push-ups and planks. So I took a video of him, and his little tush is 8 feet up in the air here. I'm like, no, but you feel like you are. So having that personal feedback, that video, it's very useful and fun.
Definitely. Yes. I would say I am grateful for the one aspect of COVID that helped create this transition because I get, not only do I get to help more people around the world, but because we have this ability to connect virtually and have the record. I think it's really great.
It is. I was Zooming before the pandemic, but professionally, but really then when it became common, and you remember at the very beginning, it was constantly, hey, you're on mute, or hey, you're not on mute. Watch what you say. That was always a little funny. But now it's so accepted. Like I got to Zoom with my grandma. I got to Zoom with older adults in my life that we didn't want to get sick at the time. And
Mhm.
so how do you see, because people often hear elder and technology and they're like, oh, there's no way. But technology can be used in many ways. And so, what do you see as the best things in any future in terms of the benefits of technology?
Yes, I think that people don't give the older community enough credit because I do think that yes, there is a little bit of a learning curve, as with everything and as with everyone, myself included. I just had a new iPhone update, and I'm like, this is so complicated.
Oh my God, every time it updates, I'm like, no, don't change. And
Mhm.
I'm not even that old, and neither are you. I'm like, yeah, stop changing my settings.
Exactly, exactly. It's difficult. And so for them, yes, I think there's a little bit of a slower period to integrate, but then they get it and they're fine and they're on early, they're waiting for me, they have their whole thing set up. And so I think that when it comes to technology in the future of age tech, I think there's so many things that we can utilize for the older adult community. I think telehealth is really picked up. And I think that's really great, but I'm curious to see, okay, what else can we do with it? We have Zoom. Can we have maybe more like vital remote health monitoring? Yeah, we have our watches, and I'm
Yeah, I'm a
curious,
big fan
but
of wearables because it tells you your
mhm.
metrics are changing, your heart rate variability. It can warn your family if you fall. Like I love the technology.
Yes, and I'm all for that too. And I'm curious, and plus what, right? So I'm really keen on fall prevention. And yes, someone they can get notified, but I'm also curious, okay, if that person's not moving, then what? How can we integrate more H tech and first responders, or how can we integrate prevention and wearables and such? So I think I'm curious. I'm an entrepreneur. I have all these ideas, and I really just want to see if anyone is out there working on something cool. Let me know. I really think that we can have a safer community. I live in Europe now. I'm based in California. I moved to Europe, and it's been such an incredible experience to see the difference in healthcare. I cannot stress it enough, but not just the medical system, that's a whole nother can of worms. But the way that the lifestyle is here, I'm mostly in the north, so I've been in Belgium and now I'm in the Netherlands. And everyone here, of course, rides bikes. But it's incredible to see the amount of, I would say, 65 plus, 70, 80-year olds on a bike in the rain day in, day out. And for me, I'm like, I'm so cold from California. I'm like, they're so wet outside.
Oh my gosh,
I'm
you
like,
people
I
from
have to
warm climates,
bike.
you can't handle any weather. It's hilarious. I'm from Michigan, so I'm like, you're a
Yeah.
lamp.
Yeah.
Oh,
I've gotten better than I think. I'm like, okay, I have my boots now. I have all my layers. We'll get on the bike. Let's go. So I
no,
can't, I'm still
but
in
that's
California
awesome.
at heart.
Of course, no, of course. I like that it becomes more common when it's part of the culture, right? It's accepted in society. Here, if you see elderly people riding a bike, it's more, huh, as opposed to
Mhm.
places where it's more common. And I like the social normalizing of staying fit. It's not like you suddenly turn 70 and we just put you out to pasture.
Mhm.
I had a patient came in his mid to late 70s and he injured his foot. And as a doctor, I'm always like, okay, what happened? And he said he was hiking. I was thinking like, oh, you were walking around the neighborhood. He said, no, I was hiking in the Andes Mountains. Oh, now I feel like you are crushing me. This is fantastic. And so to have that movement, so let's talk about it through the ages, right? Because
Mhm.
what you do in your 20s and 30s and 40, like at each kind of age stage makes a difference currently and for the future. So you
Mhm.
want to walk us through a little timeline of movement and why it's always important?
Yes, I think I'll do my best because I'm currently in my 30s. But I think
Yeah.
in your 20s, like your teens, your 20s, you're doing sports, you're running around, you're hitting the gym, and that's awesome, right? Your body can recover faster. You're probably still sleeping pretty good. Something to note that's really important with movement and recovery is sleep quality, sleep habits, sleep routines. The architecture of sleep eventually actually deteriorates with age. And I don't think a lot of people know that. So they're like, what is sleep architecture? I have no idea what she's talking about. The way the structure in our brain starts to naturally degenerate. So the sleep cycles, if anyone's familiar with stage one, two, REM, non-REM, all of those, this natural cyclical cycle of sleepiness and waking up and falling into deep sleep and such that just I don't think there's any other word than deteriorates, and it's such a big word, but it just means that the quality of sleep that you get becomes less. So you wake up earlier, you have more night frequently waking up throughout the night, and then you add something having to go to the restroom every night more often, right? That happens with age. So that comes into play as you get into your, I would say, 50s, 60s, 70s. Definitely when you hit 70s, 80s, 90s, the quality of sleep is really um, decreased. So you'll see more, and I'm sure you see this in your work as well. You have patients who are like, I really can't sleep. Can I have a sleep medicine? So then you take sleep medicine, but you're not actually, you can't really solve the deterioration, the natural deterioration of the sleep. And so then you feed it with something that's not really helping and it gets really messy. But nevertheless, I went on a sleep tangent there. As you age, I
Okay,
think
I
it's
love
so,
sleep health. It is so important
yeah,
because people were like, "Hey, I need to go to the gym, and but I have no energy." And sometimes it's not the workout; it's the sleep. So I
it's
love
the
that
sleep.
you really do have this very knowledgeable, very holistic view around people. Great tangent. I'm all for it.
Thank you.
All
Thank
right, keep
you.
going.
Yeah, thank you. It's all just tied together. I think for me, I love science. I love the way that the human body works. And so when you are exercising and you're not sleeping, you're not recovering. Sleep is, they call it the car wash of your brain, right? So your brain and your spinal fluid is literally having a car wash when you're sleeping. So it goes through and cleans out any beta amyloid plaque, which is a precursor for Alzheimer's. They've figured that out now. And so throughout later life, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, you start to see, okay, I'm not really resting so much, or my time of sleep gets shorter and shorter, which is why you see a lot of older adults wake up earlier. So the amount of sleep time also changes. And like, I actually only really sleep 4 hours. And you're like, well, it's not optimal. But at the same time, it's where you are in your stage of sleep health, I guess you can say. So I'm always open to learning more. I just had a thought, I'm like, if there's any sleep scientists listening and I have it right or have it wrong, please feel free to message me and inform me because this is what I know. And pairing it with my line of work of movement is I just really emphasize recovery as recovery and sleep as you go on. So movement, recovery, and sleep are like the trio. Yeah.
That's for health, that's for energy, vitality, fall prevention, all of those things that we need. That trio is incredibly important.
Hmm.
Awesome. For caregivers, so we talked about that, how they can balance and get the help they need. But I always just like to give caregivers one more reminder that self-care isn't selfish, that you need to help your ill or elderly loved one move. You also need to move, focus on our own recovery, our own sleep, and all of those in addition to that. This has been really incredible. It's amazing how much it's not just do this squat with this form. There's the psychology around it, the fun, the movement, the sleep, all these things play into that humanity of what you do. Um, Mercedes, what last words of wisdom do you have for us? Anything else you want us to take home about what we talked about today?
Let me think. I think that for me, what I would steer on my heart, especially because I'm so far away from home now. My parents are now in their mid to late 60s, early 70s, and I would say that if you are around your family, if you are around your parents or your grandparents are still around, giving them a call, maybe checking in, maybe seeing if they need movement, maybe some in-home healthcare, checking in just softly. It doesn't have to be like a full-on assessment and mom, you need a walker, or dad, we need to get you a massage therapist. And I think what I've learned professionally and personally is that while our parents and our grandparents really don't, they tell us like, I don't need that, I don't really want to hear it. There's a part of them that really does want to be taken care of. There's a part of them that is, okay, maybe I will consider that. And it's not really the thing that you're asking, is how you're asking it or how you're suggesting it. Or, hey, maybe we should go to Lowe's or Home Depot this weekend and look at some flowers. You know, what about the garden? How's the garden? So thinking out of the box, what are just different suggestions to get someone in your life who might need more movement out? And yeah, just I'd say the takeaway is think of something fun. In a fun, like a really silly, out of the box way that I think again later will make a memory to be like, hey, remember that one time I was into gardening with my grandfather. I watched him garden, but going back to COVID, my mother and I were like bored, so let's go to Lowe's and go to the garden section. And I fell in love with plants, and now I have plants all over the house. I love exactly your background is beautiful. I was like, oh my gosh, those plants are gorgeous. I have a
I
really
got them at the beginning of the pandemic, and then this is what happened. I'm like, I kept them alive. Look, they're so great.
so nice. Yes, it becomes this beautiful hobby. And so now I have my mom just visited Europe about a month ago, and she's, oh my goodness, your plants are beautiful. I'm like, yes, because I'm using all the little tricks that you taught me. And so you create this bonding. And I think my takeaway is how can we create this beautiful ideal world with society where we can not forget about our aging adults, our aging loved ones, and even just older adult population in general. I think unfortunately it's okay, you retire and then we forget about them. You've contributed to Social Security. Thanks so much. Here's your check. See you later. And for me, it breaks my heart. So I would, in an ideal world, love to bring that intergenerational community together.
Yes, and I love how you do it with genuine connection. Put the phone down, make eye contact,
Yeah.
listen, have some joy, have some fun, incorporate play. This doesn't have to be boring or torture or even difficult. I love how you have made this feel so accessible and straightforward. So thank you so much for what you do. The work you do is so incredible. As much as I love being an ER doc, I would love for nobody to fall and need to come see me. So
Yep.
what you're doing upstream, please put, I hope that I joke, my friend Brianna Greenspan jokes that I'm the only person trying to put themselves out of a job, but I am. That's why we're doing this podcast. So people can hear these and learn these for, for our younger listeners. Start moving if you're not, keep moving if you are.
Mhm.
And then there's ways that we can adapt along every stage.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Awesome.
Yes.
Mercedes Fernandez, absolutely incredible. Thank you for zooming from Europe. You got to love the technology. We're going to put all the information in the show notes where you can find Mercedes if you want to work with her, if you want to learn more, see some of the articles that she's written that have been incredibly valuable, particularly around movement. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Jamie. This has been absolutely wonderful, and I really truly hope and trust that your audience has gotten some value. So don't hesitate. Anyone listening, feel free to reach out. I don't bite. I come with open arms.
Yes.
And I'm here to, like you said, help everyone prevent those falls. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of Navigating Hope. Our guest today was Mercedes Fernandez, a dedicated geriatric kinesiologist and founder of the movement Geriatric Physiotherapy, who is committed to enhancing the quality of life for older adults through functional movement. Mercedes shared valuable insights on safe mobility, the role of movement in aging, and how we can better support our loved ones in staying active. Let's dive into those 5 key takeaways from our conversation. Number 1, movement is essential for aging well. Mercedes highlighted the importance of daily movement in preventing muscle loss, promoting independence, and enhancing overall well-being. Even simple actions like walking, gardening, or climbing stairs can significantly contribute to physical health and mental resilience as we age. Number 2, mobility devices need to be used safely. Many older adults unknowingly use canes or walkers that aren't properly adjusted, which can lead to further strain or injury. Mercedes recommends that anyone using a mobility aid get it assessed and fitted to ensure it's truly supporting their movement safety. Number 3, reducing stigma around mobility aids. Stigma and resistance can prevent older adults from embracing mobility aids, even when they're beneficial. Mercedes advises family members to have supportive, positive conversations, focusing on how these aids promote safety and independence. Number 4, accountability boosts commitment to movement. Whether it's a friend, family member, or fitness instructor, having an accountability partner can help keep older adults engaged in their movement routine. Pairing movement with fun activities like walking a pet or gardening also helps establish consistency and enjoyment. Number 5, technology empowers aging in place. Technology like wearables, telehealth, and virtual fitness sessions can support senior health by providing tools for monitoring and encouraging safe movement. Mercedes sees technology as a powerful way to help keep older adults both active and connected. So, here's your call to action. Are you ready to create personalized goals around movement and safety? Download our free Smarter Goals worksheet to set achievable goals that prioritize both mobility and independence. Click the link in the show notes to access this valuable tool and start your journey today. Aging is an opportunity to stay active and connected, not a reason to slow down. With clear goals, the right support, and a positive outlook, we can help our loved ones enjoy a vibrant, healthy life. Set your goals, stay mobile, and as always, keep navigating your journey with hope. Thank you for tuning into Navigating Hope with me, Dr. Jaime Hope. It has been an honor to navigate the realms of health and wellness with you today. Remember, in the journey toward a healthier life, knowledge is your compass. If you enjoyed our time together, please share, like, and subscribe to Navigating Hope. Join us next week where we'll continue to empower your health journey, arming you with the wisdom to navigate life's challenges and keep the emergency room in your rearview mirror.